Most people have absolutely no idea what they'd do if a flood hit their neighborhood tomorrow. Like, genuinely no clue. They'd probably panic, make bad decisions, and put themselves in serious danger without even realizing it. And that's not me being harsh, that's just the truth. The scary part? Floods aren't some rare, once-in-a-lifetime disaster anymore. They're happening more frequently, hitting places that never expected them, and catching people completely off guard. You could be living somewhere that's never flooded before, and that still doesn't make you immune. So here's the deal. Today we're breaking this down properly. No fluff, no sugarcoating, just straight-up practical information that could genuinely save your life. We're going through everything: how to stay informed, what to do when the water starts rising, how to prep before anything even happens, what to do with your utilities, and why floodwater is way more dangerous than it looks. Stick around, this stuff matters. Section 1. Staying informed, your first line of defense. Okay, let's start from the very beginning. The absolute foundation of flood survival is this: you have to know what's coming before it arrives. Sounds obvious, right? But you'd be shocked at how many people completely ignore weather warnings until it's too late. They hear there's a storm coming and just think, it'll probably be fine. And sometimes it is fine, but sometimes it really isn't. Watch the weather like it's your job. First things first. You need to be monitoring weather updates consistently, not just when you feel like it, not just when someone mentions it at work, but regularly. Local news channels are a solid starting point. They pull in meteorologists who track regional weather patterns and can give you location-specific updates that national forecasts sometimes miss. These people are watching your area specifically. Use that. Weather apps are another tool you should have on your phone right now. Apps like Weather Underground, the National Weather Service app, or even just your phone's built-in weather system can push you real-time alerts. Set those notifications up. Don't leave them off. A notification that wakes you up at 2 a.m. could be the thing that saves your family. Emergency alert systems are also absolutely critical. In many countries, your government operates emergency broadcast systems that send alerts directly to your phone without you needing to download anything. Make sure those are enabled. Go check right now if you're not sure. Seriously, pause and check. Know your local flood risk specifically. Here's where a lot of people drop the ball. Staying informed isn't just about checking the forecast, it's about understanding the specific risk profile of your neighborhood. Is your area historically prone to flooding? Has it happened before, even decades ago? These things matter because geography doesn't change overnight. If your neighborhood flooded in 1998, the conditions that caused that probably still exist. Are there rivers, streams, lakes, or reservoirs near you? Bodies of water that look completely peaceful right now can overflow aggressively during heavy rain. Distance doesn't always protect you either. Water travels, and it travels fast. Are you in a low-lying area? Even if you're not right next to water, being in a depression or valley means water from higher ground will naturally drain toward you. Know your elevation relative to your surroundings. Most governments publish official flood risk maps. These are publicly available. Look yours up. Flood zone designations tell you exactly how likely your area is to experience flooding and how severe it could get. This isn't paranoia. This is just being a responsible adult. Sign up for local alerts. Beyond the national emergency systems, many local councils, municipalities, and counties operate their own alert systems specifically for things like flash flooding. These hyperlocal alerts are often more timely and relevant than broader national warnings. Register for them. It usually takes about 5 minutes. Go to your local government website and look for emergency notifications or community alert systems. Most of them will text you directly when something is happening in your specific area. Talk to your neighbors. This one gets underestimated constantly. Longtime residents of any area often have institutional knowledge about local flood behavior that doesn't show up in any app or official document. Your neighbor who's lived there for 30 years might know that the street 2 blocks over floods every single time there's heavy rain, or that a certain drainage ditch overflows when the rain hits a specific intensity. That kind of local knowledge is priceless. Have those conversations. Build those relationships before anything happens. Stay updated during an event. When a storm or flood is actually developing, don't just check once and assume you're good. Situations evolve rapidly. What was a moderate weather warning 2 hours ago can escalate into a severe flood alert within minutes. Keep checking, keep listening, stay plugged in until the threat has clearly passed. Section 2. Move to higher ground and don't argue about it. All right, the water is rising. Authorities are issuing warnings. Maybe an evacuation order just came through. What do? You move immediately, without debate. When they say evacuate, they mean it. There's this frustrating human tendency to second-guess official evacuation orders. People think, it doesn't look that bad yet, or I've ridden out storms before, or I don't want to leave my house. And look, I understand those feelings. Leaving your home is stressful and disruptive and uncomfortable. But here's the blunt truth. Emergency management officials don't issue evacuation orders lightly. There's a whole process involved. When they pull that trigger and tell you to go, it's because the data they're looking at is alarming. It's because conditions are expected to get significantly worse. It's because staying puts you in genuine danger. Your house can be repaired, your belongings can be replaced, insurance exists for a reason, but you cannot replace a human life. Not yours, not your kids, not your elderly parents. Once that's gone, it's gone. So when the order comes, you treat it as non-negotiable. Get to higher ground immediately. The moment you decide to evacuate, or better yet, the moment before you need to, you move to higher ground, away from rivers, away from streams, away from drainage areas, away from any low-lying zones that water could collect in. Higher ground doesn't mean you need to be on a mountain. It just means elevation relative to the flood source. A hill in your neighborhood, a multi-story building, a designated emergency shelter on elevated terrain, these are all valid options. Know your evacuation routes in advance. This is critical and it needs to happen before any emergency occurs. You should already know, right now, today, at least 2 different routes out of your area. Why 2? Because floods can cut off roads. One route might be underwater by the time you're leaving, and if that's the only one you know, you're in trouble. Study a map of your area. Identify the routes that move toward higher ground and away from bodies of water. Think about where those routes could be vulnerable. Bridges are a big one, since they can become impassable quickly during floods. Practice those routes. Drive them occasionally so you know what turns to make without having to think about it during a stressful, chaotic emergency. Don't wait for the last possible moment. If you're in a high-risk area and the forecast is looking severe, don't wait for an official evacuation order before you start getting ready to move. Prepare early, pack your essentials, load the car, be ready to go at a moment's notice. Evacuation routes become dangerously congested when everyone waits until the last minute. The earlier you move, the smoother and safer your exit will be. Never drive through flooded roads. This is where I need you to really pay attention, because this kills people every single year. People look at a flooded road and make a judgment call that it's passable, and they are wrong. And sometimes they die because of it. 6 inches of moving water. That's all it takes to knock a grown adult off their feet. 6 inches. Think about that. 2 feet of moving water that will carry away most passenger vehicles. SUVs, trucks, sedans. Doesn't matter. Water is incredibly powerful, and it doesn't care how confident you are in your driving ability. And here's the thing that makes this worse. Flooded roads often have hidden dangers beneath the surface. Road damage, missing chunks of pavement, collapsed sections, open drains. You cannot see any of this when the road is covered with murky water. What looks like a shallow puddle might be a massive gap in the road. Turn around, find another route. If no route is available, find a safe elevated location and wait. Do not drive through floodwater. Full stop. What if you're caught in a vehicle during flash flooding? Sometimes you don't get warning. Flash floods can develop within minutes, and you might find yourself in a vehicle with water rising around you. If this happens, stay calm and act fast. If the water is rising but your car is still on solid ground, get out immediately and move to higher ground on foot. If your car starts to float or move, open the windows or break them if necessary. Unbuckle, get out, and swim to safety. The longer you stay in the vehicle, the more dangerous your situation becomes. Section 3. Preparing before the flood. Your emergency kit. Let's shift gears and talk about something that most people put off indefinitely because it feels like overkill. Your emergency kit. It's not overkill. It's one of the smartest things you can do as a responsible person, and it takes one afternoon to put together. What goes in your emergency kit? Think about it this way. In the event of a serious flood, you might be cut off from stores, services, and normal life for several days. Your emergency kit is what sustains you and your family during that period. It should cover your basic survival needs without requiring you to go anywhere. Water is your absolute first priority. The general recommendation is 1 gallon per person per day. For a family of 4 over 3 days, that's 12 gallons minimum. Store more if you can. Water containers designed for long-term storage are available at most hardware or outdoor supply stores. Non-perishable food is next. Canned goods, protein bars, dried fruits, crackers, nuts, things that don't require refrigeration and have long shelf lives. Make sure you have a manual can opener. This sounds like a small thing, but it's the kind of thing people forget until they're staring at a can of beans with no way to open it. Medications are critical. If anyone in your household takes prescription medication, ensure you have at least a week's supply in your emergency kit. Talk to your doctor about how to manage this. Also include basic over-the-counter medications, pain relievers, antihistamines, antidiarrheals, and anything else your family regularly needs. A quality flashlight with extra batteries. Ideally, get a hand crank or solar-powered option as a backup so you're not dependent on battery supply. Floods often knock out power, sometimes for extended periods. A first aid kit, a comprehensive one, not just a few Band-Aids. Include antiseptic, gauze, bandages, medical tape, scissors, tweezers, and a first aid instruction manual. If anyone in your family has specific medical needs, factor those in. Important documents. This one surprises people, but think about what you'd need if your house was destroyed or inaccessible for weeks. Identification documents, insurance policies, medical records, bank account information, property documents. Keep copies in a waterproof container or sealed plastic bag. Consider also keeping digital copies stored in the cloud or on a USB drive. Additional items worth having: a battery-powered or hand crank radio. When your phone loses signal or battery, a radio can still receive emergency broadcasts and updates. Warm clothing and blankets. Even in warm climates, extended exposure to floodwater and wet conditions can cause dangerous drops in body temperature. Cash in small denominations. During emergencies, ATMs often stop working and digital payments can be unreliable. Cash is king when infrastructure fails. Copies of your emergency contacts written on paper. Don't rely solely on your phone. If it dies or gets wet, you need to be able to reach people without it. A whistle. If you're trapped or need to signal for help, a whistle carries much further than your voice and uses no energy. Sanitation supplies. Wet wipes, hand sanitizer, garbage bags, toilet paper. Sanitation breaks down quickly in disaster situations, and maintaining hygiene is genuinely important for preventing illness. Maps of your local area. Physical maps, not just digital. If your phone dies or loses signal, you need to be able to navigate. A multi-tool or Swiss Army knife. These are compact and surprisingly useful in a wide range of emergency scenarios. Where to store your kit. Keep it somewhere easily accessible, not buried in a basement that might flood, not locked in a storage unit across town, ideally near an exit, somewhere you can grab it quickly when you need to move fast. Make sure everyone in your household knows where it is. This is not just your emergency kit, it's the family's. Check and update it regularly. Set a reminder to check your emergency kit every 6 months. Replace expired food and medications. Check battery levels. Make sure everything is still in good condition. Treat this like changing your smoke alarm batteries. It's a regular maintenance task, not a one-time thing. Section 4. Your family emergency plan. Everyone needs to know the plan. Having supplies is great, but supplies don't help much if your family is scattered and has no idea how to coordinate during a crisis. That's where your family emergency plan comes in. Why a plan matters. Emergencies are chaotic by nature. People panic, communication breaks down, people make impulsive decisions. A plan cuts through all of that because it gives everyone a clear set of instructions to follow when clear thinking is hardest. You don't have to figure things out in the moment because you already figured them out beforehand. Establish a communication strategy. Decide in advance how your family will communicate during an emergency. Cell networks often become overloaded or unreliable during major disasters. Texts sometimes go through when calls don't. Good to know. Agree on a backup method of communication if primary methods fail. Designate an out-of-area contact. This sounds counterintuitive, but it works. During a local emergency, local lines get jammed, but calling someone outside the affected area is often much easier. Make sure everyone in your family has the number of one person outside your region who can serve as a communication hub. Designate a meeting point. If your family gets separated or can't reach each other by phone, where do you meet? Decide this now. Pick somewhere specific, not just the park, but the exact bench at the north entrance of the park, for example. Have a primary meeting point close to home for smaller emergencies and a secondary meeting point further away for situations where your immediate area is inaccessible. Make sure even your kids know both meeting points by heart. Practice it. Make it part of family conversations so it's automatic. Assign roles. In an emergency, clarity about who does what prevents confusion and saves time. Who is responsible for grabbing the emergency kit? Who checks on elderly neighbors? Who is in charge of the pets? Who handles turning off utilities? Assign these roles in advance so there's no scrambling. Account for special needs. Does anyone in your family have mobility limitations, medical equipment that needs power, communication challenges? These factors need to be built into your plan specifically. Don't assume a generic plan covers everyone. Customize it. Practice the plan. A plan you've only read once is much less effective than a plan you've actually rehearsed. Do a practice run. Walk through the evacuation route. Test your communication strategy. Locate your emergency kit together as a family. The more familiar everyone is with the plan, the more smoothly it'll execute under real pressure. Share the plan with extended family and neighbors. Let people know your plan. Extended family, close friends, neighbors. In emergencies, community coordination matters. Neighbors who know each other's plans can look out for each other. Family members outside your immediate household can provide support more effectively if they understand what you're doing. Section 5. Utilities. Turn them off and do it properly. This section doesn't get talked about enough, and it's genuinely important. What happens to your gas, electricity, and water during a flood can have serious consequences, not just during the event, but afterward. Why you need to turn off utilities. When floodwater enters your home, it interacts with your utility systems in dangerous ways. Gas lines can be damaged, creating leak risks. Electrical systems and water do not mix safely. Water supplies can become contaminated. Managing these proactively prevents a flood from turning into a multi-layered disaster. Gas, the most urgent. Gas leaks during or after a flood are extremely dangerous. If floodwater damages a gas line or appliance and gas starts leaking, the risk of explosion or fire is very real. If you're evacuating or if flooding is imminent, shut off your gas supply at the main valve. This is usually located near your gas meter. Learn how to do this before an emergency happens. Look it up, find your main valve, understand the process. In most cases, you'll need an adjustable wrench or a gas shutoff tool. Keep one handy. Once you've shut off your gas, don't turn it back on yourself after the flood. Have a licensed professional inspect your system and restore it. Gas infrastructure that has been compromised needs expert eyes before it's safe to use again. Electricity, critical to manage carefully. Water and electricity together create conditions for electrocution. If floodwater enters your home and your electrical system is still live, touching certain surfaces or wading through water could be lethal. Turn off your electricity at the main breaker before water enters, if at all possible. If you're already in a flooded space and you're not sure whether the power is off, do not wade through the water. Electricity can travel through water invisibly. This is not a situation to guess about. Disconnect individual electrical appliances and move them to higher locations before flooding occurs if you have time. Even with the main breaker off, taking appliances off the floor adds an extra layer of protection. When power is restored after a flood, have an electrician inspect your system before you start using it normally. Hidden water damage to wiring creates ongoing risks that aren't always visible to the naked eye. Water supply, often overlooked. Your home's water supply can become contaminated during flooding. If floodwater backs up into your plumbing system and you're unaware of it, you could end up drinking or cooking with contaminated water after the flood passes. Shutting off your main water supply valve before flooding hits prevents this. After the flood, don't assume your tap water is safe just because it looks clear. Wait for official confirmation from your local water authority that the supply is clean and safe before using it normally. Sewer and drainage backup. This is another utility-adjacent issue worth mentioning. Severe flooding can overwhelm sewer systems, causing raw sewage to back up through drains into homes. If flooding is expected to be severe, consider blocking floor drains with plugs or bags designed for this purpose. Sewage backup is not just unpleasant, it's a serious health hazard. Section 6. Floodwater is dangerous. Stay out of it. Let's talk about floodwater directly, because there's a disconnect between how people perceive it and what it actually is. People see water and they think, it's just water. They see a flooded street and think, It doesn't look that deep, I can walk through it. They underestimate it almost every single time, and that underestimation costs lives. Floodwater is not clean water. This is the first thing you need to understand. Floodwater is not like stepping into a puddle after rain. By the time it's collected and spreading through streets and properties, it has picked up an alarming cocktail of contaminants, sewage. Raw, untreated human waste mixes into floodwater regularly when sewer systems are overwhelmed. This introduces harmful bacteria and pathogens into the water. Chemicals, flooded industrial areas, flooded garages, flooded agricultural land, all of these contribute toxic chemicals to floodwater. Pesticides, fertilizers, fuel, industrial solvents, heavy metals. These substances can cause serious harm through skin contact alone, let alone ingestion. Animal waste and remains. Unfortunately, floodwaters often contain dead animals and the waste associated with them. This introduces additional biological hazards, mold and fungal spores. These develop rapidly in flood conditions and can cause respiratory problems even from limited exposure. Any contact with floodwater should be followed by thorough washing with clean water and soap. If you have open wounds, the risk of serious infection from floodwater exposure is extremely high. Hidden physical dangers beneath the surface. Even beyond contamination, floodwater hides physical hazards that can seriously injure you. Debris, broken glass, sharp metal, wood with nails, construction materials, broken fencing, all of this gets swept up and carried by floodwater. Walking through it means walking blind through a field of potential injury. Open manholes and drains, floodwater covers manholes completely. You can step directly into one without any warning. The fall could be several feet, and the current inside drainage systems is extremely strong. Damaged infrastructure, roads and pathways that look intact might have sections that have collapsed or been severely undermined. Submerged holes in roads are invisible from the surface. Submerged vehicles and objects, larger items like cars, can be fully submerged in floodwater and become obstacles you can walk into or trip over. The power of moving water. People dramatically underestimate how much force moving water carries. 6 inches of fast-moving water can throw an adult off balance and knock them down. Once you're down in moving water, regaining your footing is extremely difficult. 12 inches of moving water is enough to carry away smaller vehicles. 2 feet will sweep away most cars and trucks. This force is not something you can muscle through with determination. Physics doesn't care how strong or determined you are. And here's a critical point. Floodwater depth and speed can change almost instantly. You might be wading through water that feels manageable, and within seconds a surge can double the depth and triple the speed. There's no way to predict this accurately from ground level. Never let children near floodwater. Children are at dramatically higher risk in floodwater than adults. Lower body weight means the force of water affects them more severely. Less experience means they're less likely to make good decisions. Shorter height means water is proportionally deeper for them. Keep children away from floodwater at all times. No exceptions. No just to look. No brief moments of letting them touch it. Keep them away. Animal hazards in floodwater. Flooding displaces animals. Snakes, including venomous ones, are frequently found in floodwater because they're being displaced from their natural environments. Rats and other rodents behave erratically. Fire ants in some regions form floating colonies. Being aware of animal hazards is another reason to stay out of floodwater entirely. After the flood, the water hazard doesn't end. When floodwater recedes, the hazards don't immediately disappear. Standing water that remains can still be contaminated. Waterlogged structures can be unstable. Mud left behind by floods carries contaminants and can be slippery and unpredictable. Return to flooded areas only when authorities declare them safe. Don't rush back just because the obvious water has gone. The situation may still be dangerous in ways that aren't immediately visible. Section 7. During the flood, if you're caught inside, what if you can't evacuate? What if the flood happens faster than expected and you're inside your home when water starts entering? Let's talk about this scenario specifically. Get to the highest point inside. If you can't get out, get up. Move to the highest floor of your building immediately. Bring your emergency kit, your medications, your important documents, and warm clothing with you. If you have a flat roof you can safely access, know how to get there. Do not enter the basement. If your home has a basement and flooding is occurring, stay out of it. Basements fill rapidly and can trap you with no way out. People have drowned in basements during floods that weren't even considered severe. Never go into a basement during a flood. This is a firm rule. Signal for help. If you're trapped in an elevated position inside a flooded building, signal your location to rescuers. Use a brightly colored cloth or clothing hung from a window. Use a whistle to attract attention. Use a flashlight at night to signal. Call emergency services and give your precise address and location within the building. Do not try to swim to safety unless the building is collapsing or on fire. Moving through floodwater is dangerous, and rescuers are often on their way. Staying in a safe, elevated position is usually the right call. Stay calm and conserve resources. Panic burns through your mental and physical energy rapidly. Stay as calm as possible. Conserve your food, water, and battery power. Make sensible decisions. Reassure children and others who are frightened. Keep monitoring emergency broadcasts for updates on when rescue or conditions will improve. Monitor structural integrity. Pay attention to whether your building seems to be taking on damage. Unusual sounds, cracks appearing, walls bowing, these can indicate the structure is being compromised. If the building's integrity seems seriously threatened, reassess whether staying put remains the safest option. Section 8. After the flood. Returning safely. Okay, the flood has passed. The waters have receded. You want to go home. Here's what you need to know about returning safely. Wait for official clearance. Don't return to your property until local authorities officially declare the area safe for re-entry. This isn't bureaucratic caution, it's substantive. Infrastructure can be compromised in ways that aren't visually obvious. Utilities may still be unsafe. Contamination risks may remain. Wait for the all clear. Document damage before cleaning. When you do return, before you start cleaning or moving anything, document all visible damage thoroughly. Photograph and video everything. This documentation is critical for insurance claims. Comprehensive, well-organized documentation makes the claim process significantly smoother. Wear protective gear. When entering a flood-damaged property, wear rubber boots, waterproof gloves, and a mask. Floodwater residue on surfaces and in mud is contaminated. Mold grows rapidly in wet conditions and can begin forming within 24 to 48 hours. Protecting yourself from these hazards during cleanup is important. Check for structural damage before entering. Before walking into a flood-damaged building, look for visible signs of structural compromise. Cracks in foundations or walls, doors and windows that no longer align properly. Sagging roof lines. These are warning signs. If you're concerned about structural integrity, have a professional assess it before you enter. Don't use utilities until they're cleared. Don't turn on gas, electricity, or use tap water until these have been professionally inspected and officially cleared. Refer back to the utilities section. The risks don't disappear the moment the water does. Address mold aggressively. Mold is one of the most significant long-term health risks associated with flooding. It grows fast, it spreads fast, and it causes serious respiratory problems, particularly in children, elderly people, and those with existing respiratory conditions. Anything porous that was submerged in floodwater, carpets, mattresses, upholstered furniture, drywall, needs to be assessed carefully and often discarded. Surfaces need to be thoroughly cleaned and disinfected. Dehumidifiers are essential. In significant flooding cases, professional mold remediation may be necessary. Take care of your mental health. This one often gets skipped in practical flood guides, but it matters enormously. Experiencing a flood is traumatic. Losing possessions, being displaced, dealing with damage to your home, these experiences take a real psychological toll. It's completely normal to feel overwhelmed, anxious, or depressed after a flood. Talk about what you're experiencing. Lean on your support network. If things feel unmanageable, seek professional support. There's no shame in that. Disasters are genuinely hard, and your mental health deserves as much attention as your physical safety.